my name is Madison Stanley, and I'm taking this video for my Nature and Society class at the University of St. Francis. So when taking this class about nature and society, I think what I was most intrigued to learn about were the water issues. For one, simply because I care a lot about our Earth and know how important water is for just about everything here. Also because I've spent most of my summer for the last 7 summers at our lake house. I was interested in seeing how many of these water issues discussed in class could be relatable to the place that I call home in the summertime. First, I'll start with some basic facts about the lake that I'm referring to, Hamilton Lake. Hamilton Lake covers over 800 acres. It has a maximum depth of over 90 feet. It's only about 35 minutes north of Fort Wayne, where the university is. And it is the 4th largest lake in Indiana. So to begin my research on the water conditions of Hamilton Lake, I went to the internet where I found a copy of the most recent edition of the Falls, the Steuben County newsletter. And here's that. So here I was able to find a fairly long article regarding a big scare that we had just last summer over the water quality. The most widespread worry at the time was the blue-green algae surplus, which was associated with the toxins in much of our drinking water. The blue-green algae boom was mostly in Lake Erie, but we at Lake Hamilton realized that we needed to do everything we could to make sure that our lake did not become sustainable for this algae. The Department of Natural Resources, or the DNR, used something called the Karl's Trophic State Index to measure our lake and the surrounding lakes' water quality. So here is what that scale looks like. And this was just found in the article. So this is the score that a lake would need to get for the blue-green algae to become prevalent in the lake. And then it showed that Hamilton Lake and most of the Steuben County lakes were in this region on the index scale. So luckily we were not sustainable for blue-green algae. But after learning this much about Hamilton Lake's water quality and seeing that we do seem to have a very good handle on this water, at least when compared to Lake Erie's water last summer, I decided to look in the textbook to see what I could find about water pollution and quality. The information I found that most related to what I learned about Lake Hamilton and the surrounding lakes was a statement made from the calculations of the environmental specialist Danella Meadows. Back in 1992, she stated that the amount of water made unusable by pollution is almost as great as the amount actually used by the human economy. The specialist also noted that we're even close to making the fresh water that's closest to us, like lakes and rivers, unusable. It was pretty disheartening for me to see that 23 years ago, warning statements like this were being put out there, and it still took all this time to really get somewhat of a big environmentalist movement going. Another issue I was anxious to look into was global warming. For this topic, I started with the book to see what facts I could find. As a lot of us know, major warning signs that we're currently seeing around the globe include droughts, floods, rising sea levels, melting glaciers, and more. This was on page 12, and then on page 14, I read about how 2 totally different places, Africa and Iowa, are seeing similar consequences from global warming. On page 14, it stated that rain-fed agriculture in Africa could be down as much as 50% by 2020. And also in Iowa, farmers may soon be forced to switch to drought-tolerant corn varieties. This will mean an overall decline in the total food production per acre. While some places are realizing drought conditions from the global warming, others are getting too much water from severe storms and flooding. But this can also be blamed on global warming. This has been seen in Great Britain, Tennessee, Iowa, Pakistan, China, India, Brazil, and more. Since I now knew a bit more about the far-reaching effects of global warming, I was curious as to whether any of these signs could be seen on Hamilton Lake. Sure enough, the very first article in the Steuben County newsletter that I referred to for information regarding water quality was about global warming, titled "Water, Water Everywhere or Nowhere to be Seen." In this article, it talked about how we are experiencing the same things discussed in the textbook, specifically heavy storms, flooding, and droughts. Even though the droughts have been seen mostly west, we are still affected by the diminishing of supply of beef, almonds, and fresh produce. The article discussed that we have water in abundance in northern Indiana, but southern Indiana has fewer water resources to continue to meet its needs. And I love how this article ended, so I thought it would be a good quote to use as the conclusion of my video since it touches on both global warming and water quality. Both the distribution of Indiana water resources and the high demand for water point to a great need for proper management and planning for our future. And this planning needs to address not only the quality of our water, but also its conservation.